What if I told you that, well, hoping for good luck is actually just a psychological defense mechanism?
Yeah.
Like looking at a highly successful person and thinking, well, they just have natural talent or they were in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, the classic excuses.
Exactly. What if that is nothing more than your own ego frantically trying to protect you from a very uncomfortable truth?
That's a heavy thought to start with.
It is, but today we are really looking at the invisible and honestly incredibly painful architecture of success. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
We are taking some truly uncompromising source material today, excerpts from a text called The Architecture of Achievement, and we're viewing it through the very pragmatic, unyielding lens of the Stoic blueprint for lifelong transformation.
And that's a combination that really doesn't pull any punches.
Not at all. And our mission here is singular today. We are going to completely dismantle the comforting lies society feeds us about how extraordinary lives are built.
It is a necessary demolition, I think.
That-
Because if you look closely at modern culture, we are practically suffocated by these myths of spontaneous greatness.
Everywhere you look.
Right. We're fed this constant narrative that success is just something that happens to you rather than something you construct.
Yeah.
And the texts we're exploring today argue that until you completely shatter that illusion, you really cannot even begin to lay the foundation for your own progress.
Oh, okay, let's unpack this because I want to frame this around a feeling that I think, well, almost everyone listening has experienced at some point.
Sure.
You look at someone who has achieved what you want. Maybe it's financial independence. Maybe they built a thriving company from scratch. Or, maybe they just possess this unshakable, disciplined mindset that allows them to just navigate chaos without losing their center.
Which is something we all kind of crave.
Exactly. And then you look at your own life, you are putting in the hours.
You're exhausted.
Right. You feel absolutely exhausted at the end of the week, but you look around and realize you haven't actually moved. It's the sensation of sprinting on a treadmill while watching someone else effortlessly glide upward on an escalator.
That treadmill sensation, it breeds a very specific, quiet resentment, I think.
It really does.
It makes you question the fundamental fairness of the world. Like, why them and not me?
Yes, that exact question.
But what's fascinating here is how the Stoic framework immediately challenges that resentment by forcing us to examine what we are actually measuring in the first place.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, the text states very plainly that success is not reserved for a chosen few.
Right.
It is not a birthright. It's not a gift handed down by the universe to lucky individuals. Success is built brick by boring brick. But society only ever celebrates the finish line.
The finish line, yeah. That is the core cognitive distortion we have to address first, I think.
Absolutely.
Because we see the billionaire ringing the bell at the stock exchange. We see the athlete biting the Olympic gold medal.
Yeah, I real.
Exactly, the final hyper-polished output. And because the human brain is basically a pattern recognition machine that prefers shortcuts, it looks at that polished output and assumes a straight, unbroken line from birth to greatness.
We completely erase the messy, chaotic, miserable middle.
We do. We just pretend it doesn't exist.
And it's a phenomenon heavily reinforced by media and storytelling artists.
Oh, for sure. Movies, books.
Think about the classic hero's journey we see in every blockbuster movie. There is always a moment where the protagonist discovers they are the chosen one, right?
Oh yeah, they pull the sword from the stone.
Exactly. They have a dormant superpower or a magical lineage. We love these stories because they cater to a deep-seated psychological fantasy.
Which is what? Exactly.
The desire to be discovered and elevated without having to endure the grueling, monotonous agony of actually building competence.
We want the transformation montage.
Yes, we want to take 3 minutes of screen time, set to an upbeat song, and then boom, you're in spurt.
But the reality described in the architecture of achievement is the exact opposite of a 3-minute montage.
Completely the opposite.
It points out that the precursors to those massive victories, the actual building blocks, are years of intense loneliness, repeated failure, brutal rejection, and the kind of sacrifice that nobody wants to photograph.
Nobody's putting that on Instagram.
Right. Let's step away from the tired metaphor of the iceberg for a second. Think about a massive suspension bridge, like the Golden Goat.
Okay, I like this.
When you drive over it or you look at a postcard of it, you marvel at the sweeping red cables and the towers reaching into the clouds. It looks like it's defying gravity.
It's beautiful.
But the towers aren't holding the tension.
No, they're not.
The entire structure, the millions of tons of steel and asphalt, is actually being held by the anchorages.
The anchorages, yeah.
These are colossal, brutal blocks of solid concrete buried hundreds of feet deep into the earth, poured in total darkness, permanently submerged in mud and bedrock. And nobody buys a postcard of the anchorage. Nobody writes a song about the concrete block in the dirt. But if you remove it, the beautiful towers instantly collapse into the ocean.
That's a really powerful image.
The source text is basically arguing that society only wants to be the towers, but true achievement requires you to spend a decade being the anchorage in the dark.
And that explains the defense mechanism you mentioned at the very beginning of the deep dive.
Oh, so?
Well, why do we recoil from the submerged part? Why do we prefer the myth of the chosen few? Because if we acknowledge the anchorage, if we accept that the athlete on the podium spent 10 years waking up at 4 a.m., vomiting from exhaustion, missing every social event, and risking their entire livelihood, then we are suddenly faced with a terrifying mirror.
Ah, I see. Because it means we had the exact same choice, and we simply didn't take it.
Precisely. If success is a genetic lottery or pure luck, you are completely absolved of any responsibility.
It's basically a get-out-of-jail-free card for your ego.
Exactly. It is incredibly comforting to look at a highly successful person and say, well, they just have a different brain than I do, or they got a lucky break.
Right.
It protects your ego. It allows you to stay comfortably on the couch without feeling inadequate.
But the moment you accept the stoic premise that success is built through thousands of unseen, agonizing decisions, that comfort just evaporates.
It does. It places the burden of your current situation squarely on your own shoulders.
Which is a heavy burden for sure, but also the only one that actually grants you any real agency.
Yes.
Because if you're waiting to win a lottery you never even bought a ticket for, you will be waiting forever.
That's a great way to put it.
But if we accept that success is built, we have to look at the tools people think they need to build it. And this is where the text starts taking a literal sledgehammer to traditional self-help advice.
Oh, it really does.
Because the very first tool it tells us to throw in the garbage is motivation.
The text is entirely unapologetic about this. It calls the idea that motivation will change your life a complete fantasy.
A complete fantasy.
It warns the reader that waiting for a perfect opportunity, waiting to be in the right mood, or waiting for the right external circumstances is an absolute trap.
I want to push back on this a little just to test the structural integrity of the argument for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
Surely motivation has some role, right? Like when you read a profound book or you watch a brilliant documentary, you get that surge of adrenaline in your chest.
Yeah, the spark.
That sudden clarity where you think, I am going to change my life tomorrow. Doesn't that biochemical surge serve a necessary function in human behavior?
It serves a function, yes, but we fundamentally misunderstand what that function actually is.
Okay.
Motivation is an emotion. It is a highly volatile, transient neurochemical state.
Right.
It is a spike in dopamine and adrenaline. And like all emotional states, it is entirely dependent on external and physiological variables that you simply cannot consistently control.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. How did you sleep last night? Did your blood sugar drop? Did someone cut you off in traffic and spike your cortisol? All of these things will instantly evaporate that feeling of motivation.
So using motivation to build a long-term goal is like trying to sail across the Pacific Ocean, but you refuse to turn on the engine. You are just sitting on the deck hoping a random gust of wind comes along.
That is a highly accurate way to look at it. You might move 10 feet, but then you'll sit dead in the water for 3 weeks.
Just waiting.
Yeah. The spark of motivation is great for conceptualizing a goal, but it is utterly useless for executing it over a 5-year timeline.
So what does the text offer instead?
It replaces the fantasy of motivation with 3 unglamorous pillars: habits, choices, discipline.
Boring stuff.
The boring, necessary stuff. Because if you rely on the right circumstances, you are essentially outsourcing your locus of control.
Right.
You are saying, I will only act when the universe arranges my internal chemistry and my external environment perfectly.
Like saying, I'll start the business when the economy improves.
Or, I'll go to the gym when I feel energized.
I'll write the book when I feel inspired.
All of which strip you of your agency. You become a victim of the weather, essentially.
Yeah.
Discipline, however, is a localized engine. It doesn't care if it's raining. It doesn't care if you are tired.
Discipline is the cognitive override of your emotional state.
Exactly. It is the ability to say, I am currently experiencing the emotion of lethargy, but my physical actions will remain aligned with my long-term objective. That is what creates an extraordinary life.
Let's bring this down from the theoretical altitude and look at the granular reality of this, because the text does not leave this in the realm of abstract philosophy, does it?
No, it gets very practical.
It forces us to look at the microscopic daily application of this discipline. It argues that the architecture of your life is actually determined by the micro decisions you make in the first few minutes of your day.
Yeah, the battleground of the morning.
Right. The text frames a typical Tuesday morning not as a routine, but as a battleground. It states, every morning begins with a decision. You can choose comfort or you can choose growth.
This is the fundamental temporal trade-off that defines human existence. We are constantly caught in a negotiation between the present self and the future self.
Present versus future.
Yeah. Comfort feels good today. Growth builds a better tomorrow. And the text points out that most people chronically choose comfort, offering two very mundane yet devastating examples.
Hitting the snooze button and mindlessly scrolling through social media.
Exactly.
Let's dissect that snooze button because I think it's the perfect microcosm for everything we're talking about today.
Oh, it really is.
When the alarm goes off at 6 a.m., the room is cold, the bed is warm, the prospect of the day's obligations is suddenly just crashing down on you. Hitting that button isn't just a desire for 9 more minutes of sleep, is it?
No, not at all. From a physiological standpoint, those 9 extra minutes are actually detrimental. Yeah, you are interrupting the cortisol awakening response and plunging yourself back into fragmented sleep, which induces sleep inertia. You actually wake up groggier.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So no, it's not about the biological need for sleep. It is entirely about psychological escape.
I see.
At 6 a.m., your prefrontal cortex, the logical, long-term planning center of your brain, is not fully online yet.
Right.
But your amygdala, the primitive emotional center that seeks immediate safety and comfort, is wide awake.
So it's an ambush, basically. The primitive brain takes control before the logical brain can even boot up.
Exactly. And when you reach over and hit the snooze button, you are committing the very first psychological surrender of the day.
You're casting a vote.
You are casting a vote that says, when faced with friction, my default response is to seek immediate relief. You are training your neural pathways to capitulate.
Wow.
You steal 9 minutes of comfort from tomorrow to pay for a fleeting sensation of warmth today.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The text makes a fascinating categorical leap right after mentioning the snooze button and social media scrolling.
Right, it lumps some unexpected things together.
It groups those physical comforts right alongside psychological comfort. It explicitly says, it is easy to blame the economy, your family, your past, your education, or bad luck. Excuses are categorized as a form of comfort.
Because they serve the exact same neurological function as the snooze button.
How so?
They immediately alleviate pressure.
If we look at human evolution, we are hardwired for this, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, if you were a hunter-gatherer 10,000 years ago, choosing the path of least resistance was a survival imperative. Expending unnecessary energy or walking into the freezing rain when you didn't have to meant you might starve or die of exposure.
Right, you had to conserve energy.
So our brains are essentially ancient software running on modern hardware.
That is the evolutionary mismatch. The primitive brain cannot distinguish between the existential threat of a saber-toothed tiger and the psychological discomfort of writing a difficult email or facing a failing bank account.
It just feels like stress.
It just registers stress and demands that you seek cover immediately. Excuses are the modern equivalent of hiding in a cave.
That makes so much sense.
When you blame your childhood or the economy, the stress immediately drops. The brain feels safe.
But unlike the Pleistocene epoch, the threats we face today aren't usually physical predators. The real threats are complacency, mediocrity, and the slow, agonizing realization of unfulfilled potential.
Which is a much slower death.
Yeah. We have to actively override millions of years of evolutionary programming every single time we wake up. Which brings us to the most unyielding, demanding principle in this entire Stoic framework.
The core of it all.
If excuses are just a psychological snooze button, the text offers only one cure: radical, absolute responsibility.
The text states that taking responsibility is difficult, but it is exactly where your power begins. The moment you stop blaming everything around you and accept complete ownership of your future, your life changes permanently.
But let's look at the specific excuses the text listed: the economy, your family, your past, a lack of education. What makes these excuses so incredibly seductive is that they're usually completely valid.
Very true.
The economy might actually be in a recession. You might have genuinely suffered a traumatic childhood. You might have been dealt a terrible hand of cards.
Right.
So how does the Stoic mindset address the fact that these things are undeniably real? We aren't ignoring reality, right?
No, not at all. This is where we have to distinguish between fault and responsibility. It is a crucial philosophical line in the sand.
Okay, lay that out for us.
It may not be your fault that the economy crashed. It may not be your fault that you were born into poverty, but it is entirely your responsibility to navigate it.
Right.
The Stoics operate on the dichotomy of control, ruthlessly separating the things you cannot influence from the things you can.
So pouring your mental energy into how unfair your past was, or how corrupt the economic system is basically the equivalent of standing outside and screaming at a thunderstorm for making you wet.
Yes. The storm doesn't care.
It doesn't change the weather, it just leaves you exhausted and soaked.
Precisely. And when you use the valid reality of the storm as an excuse to stop wronging, you are paying a massive price for that comfort.
You're trading your agency.
Exactly. When you say, I cannot succeed because of the economy, you are handing the steering wheel of your life over to the Federal Reserve.
Wow.
You become a passenger. You're telling your own brain that your actions do not matter because external forces dictate the outcome.
I think of it like being dealt a terrible hand in poker. You can sit at the table and complain for hours about how the dealer shuffled the deck, how unfair the distribution of aces is, and how the guy across from you got lucky.
Which happens all the time.
And all of which might be factually true, but the dealer isn't going to take the cards back. You still have to play the hand.
Right.
And the energy you spend complaining is energy you aren't using to calculate odds or figure out how to bluff.
That's a perfect analogy.
Uh-huh.
The text makes a very careful distinction here, though. It promises that accepting responsibility changes your life permanently, but it explicitly adds, not magically, not overnight.
Why the caveat? If I take responsibility today, shouldn't things start improving immediately?
Because taking responsibility does not alter the external reality. It alters your orientation to it.
Oh.
If your business is failing and you finally stop blaming the market and instead say, my marketing is terrible and my product is outdated, this is my fault, your bank account doesn't magically fill up the next morning.
Right, you still have a failing business.
The work is still in front of you, but the shift is permanent because the illusion of victimhood is shattered. You are no longer waiting on the roof for a helicopter that isn't coming.
You start gathering wood to build a boat.
Exactly. Even if the boat building is slow and painful, you are finally in motion.
And if you are in motion, if you drop the excuses and actually start trying to build that boat, well, we run into the next massive hurdle.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you start taking action, you are inevitably going to tie a bad knot. The boat is going to take on water. You're going to fail.
It's guaranteed.
And the text argues that society lies to us about failure just as aggressively as it lies to us about success.
Society presents failure as a defect. It treats a mistake as a sign that you have fundamentally deviated from the correct path.
The text brings us right back to the illusion of the finish line. It says, we are surrounded by stories of overnight millionaires, instant fame, viral breakthroughs, but what you don't see are the years behind those moments.
The dark years.
Right. Every overnight success spent years working in silence, years when nobody believed in them, years dealing with doubt, and years of repeated failure.
We have been conditioned, largely by our educational systems and corporate structures, to view failure as a stop sign.
Yeah.
In school, a failing grade is a permanent stain on your record. In many jobs, a failed project is grounds for termination. So we internalize this idea that failure is the opposite of success.
But the source material reframes failure entirely.
It does. It asserts that failure is not the opposite of success. It is a vital, functional mechanism of it.
The text hits the reader with a rapid-fire sequence of statements that sound almost, deranged if you are stuck in the traditional mindset.
They really do.
It says, if you failed before good, it means you're trying. If you've been rejected good, it means you're stepping outside your comfort zone. If life has knocked you down, good. Because the difference is champions get back up.
Good. Such a stark confrontational word in this context.
Oh, it really is.
It is the purest distillation of Stoic philosophy, though. When a catastrophic setback occurs, the average person catastrophizes. They say, this is a disaster, I am ruined.
Naturally.
But the Stoic looks at the exact same setback and says, good, I have just discovered a flaw in my methodology. I have just been handed the exact friction I need to adapt.
But let's not gloss over how incredibly difficult it is to actually feel that way in the moment.
Oh, it's brutal.
Nobody naturally likes failing. It is humiliating. When you launch a project and it gets zero traction, or you ask for a promotion and you are told you aren't good enough, or you trying to learn a new skill and you publicly fall on your face, your ego is bleeding. The pain is very real.
It is. The Stoic mindset does not require you to pretend the pain doesn't exist, though. It requires you to change the utility of the pain.
Okay, think about a Formula One racing team. When they design a new car, they don't just put it on the track and hope for the best.
Right?
They put a scale model into a wind tunnel, and they subject it to hurricane force winds from every possible angle. When the aerodynamic sensors show that the car is creating too much drag or that it would literally flip over at 200 miles an hour, the engineers don't sit on the floor and cry about how they are failures.
They'd be out of a job if they did.
Right. They celebrate the fact that the wind tunnel exposed the flaw before the driver was in the cockpit.
That is a brilliant analogy. Failure in life is simply the wind tunnel, testing your character and your strategy.
Exactly. If you avoid the wind tunnel because you are afraid it will show you your flaws, you end up taking a fundamentally compromised vehicle onto the track of life and you crash when it actually matters.
Yeah.
Rejection, failure, embarrassment. These are just aerodynamic sensors lighting up, telling you where you need to shave down your ego or improve your skill set. It is purely data.
But transitioning from seeing failure as a personal defeat to seeing it as objective data requires an immense amount of psychological resilience.
It really does.
Which naturally leads to the final and perhaps most paralyzing objection people have when facing this material.
And what's that?
Well, if you accept that you must take radical responsibility and you accept that taking action means you will inevitably face the wind tunnel of failure, how do you possibly summon the confidence to take the first step?
This is where the deep dive gets into what I think is the most mind-bending paradigm shift in the entire text.
Yeah.
It addresses the confidence paradox. This completely upends how we assume human psychology operates.
It dismantles the final excuse, really. The excuse of, I'm just not confident enough yet.
The text says, here is something that may change the way you think forever. Confidence doesn't come before action. Confidence comes after repeated action.
After.
You become confident by doing and acting despite fear, not by thinking.
We treat confidence like it is a prerequisite. We view it as a permit or a license that we must acquire before we are legally allowed to pursue our goals.
Right, like you have to go to the DMV of life and get your confidence printed.
Exactly. People sit around paralyzed saying, once I read 3 more books on this, then I'll feel confident enough to start the business.
Once I lose 10 pounds, I'll feel confident enough to go to the gym.
Once I take a public speaking course, I'll have the confidence to give the presentation.
But the permit doesn't exist. You cannot study your way into confidence.
Because confidence is not an input, it is an output. It is the exhaust fume of action.
The exhaust fume of action, I like that.
Waiting for confidence before you act is like standing in front of a wood-burning stove, shivering, and saying, once this stove gives me some heat, then I will put the wood in and strike the match.
It makes no sense.
The action of striking the match is precisely what generates the heat.
So what does this all mean practically? The text provides such clear, undeniable examples of this.
It does.
The first workout is difficult, the 100th is normal, the first speech is terrifying, the 50th is natural, the first business attempt feels incredibly risky, but years later, taking calculated risks just becomes your baseline lifestyle.
We have to look at the neurobiology of what is actually happening here to really grasp it.
Okay, let's hear it.
When you attempt a novel action, let's say public speaking for the first time, your brain has no established neural pathways for that specific sequence of behaviors.
Right.
Because it is unknown, the amygdala flags it as a potential threat to your survival or social standing. It floods your system with adrenaline and cortisol, your heart races, your palms sweat.
And we interpret this physiological fear response as a lack of confidence.
Precisely. We mislabel it.
So how does the repeated action change that?
Through neuroplasticity and a process called myelination.
Myelination.
Yes. Every time you force yourself to give a speech despite the fear, the electrical signal travels down that new neural pathway.
Okay.
The brain recognizes that this pathway is being used repeatedly, so it wraps the nerve fibers in a fatty substance called myelin.
Oh, like insulating a wire.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
This insulates the pathway, allowing the signal to travel much faster and with far less cognitive effort. After 50 speeches, the pathway is like a fiber optic cable.
Wow.
The brain no longer views the action as a threat. The fear response is deactivated. And what remains, that calm, efficient, autonomic execution, is what we call confidence.
Think about the first time you sat in the driver's seat of a car, especially if it was a manual transmission.
Oh yeah, totally overwhelming.
It is absolute sensory overload. You have to monitor the clutch, the gas pedal, the rear view mirror, the gear shifter, the steering wheel, and the traffic outside. Your brain is redlining just trying to process it all. You have zero confidence.
None.
But if you drive that car every day for 5 years, what happens? You are cruising down the highway at 70 miles an hour, drinking a coffee, changing the radio station, and having a conversation, and your subconscious is handling the clutch and the gears perfectly.
It's automatic.
Yeah, you didn't gain the confidence to drive by sitting in your bedroom visualizing the steering wheel. The thousands of miles of driving physically altered your brain structure.
And that proves that action is the only known cure for fear. You cannot outthink fear. You have to outact it.
You have to outact it.
And this brings the entire architectural blueprint full circle, really. Because doing something until the fear vanishes and the neural pathway is insulated, that is the literal definition of forming a habit.
Which leads us to the resounding conclusion of our source material. The text states, everything becomes easier once it becomes a habit. Habits create destiny.
Destiny is not a coordinate on a map that you're traveling toward. It is the cumulative, compounding result of the micro decisions you make.
The daily architecture.
Right. It's the architecture you have been building day by day, whether you realized you were building it or not. If your daily habit is choosing the immediate comfort of an excuse, your destiny is stagnation.
But if your daily habit is choosing growth,
then you are enduring the wind tunnel of failure and taking action despite your fear, and your destiny is success. It is not magic. It is structural mechanics.
it is the concrete anchorage in the dark.
Exactly.
So let's step back and look at the blueprint we have uncovered today. We started by tearing down the illusion that success is a gift for a chosen few, recognizing that believing in luck is just an ego defense mechanism.
A comforting lie.
Right. Then we abandoned the fleeting fantasy of motivation, realizing that a spark won't heat the house and that discipline is the only reliable engine. We zoomed in on the daily war between comfort and growth, seeing the snooze button for what it truly is.
A psychological surrender.
We embraced the heavy, empowering burden of radical responsibility, stripping away the comfortable excuses that keep us stuck. We reframed failure, turning it from a humiliating stop sign into the necessary wind tunnel that tests our character.
Good.
And finally, we cracked the confidence paradox, realizing that you do not need permission to start acting. The action itself is what physically builds the confidence in your mind.
The machinery is no longer invisible. The blueprint is sitting right on the table in front of you.
So as we close this deep dive, we want to leave you, the listener, with a final lingering thought. You now know that habits create destiny. You know that you are entirely, radically responsible for the temporal trade-off you make every single morning. The architecture of your future is entirely in your hands.
Which is both terrifying and exhilarating.
So ask yourself this. Look back at the last 12 hours. What specific destiny did you write for yourself with the micro decisions you made just today?
That's a tough question to answer honestly.
And more importantly, what is the one comfortable, seductive excuse that you are going to ruthlessly assassinate tomorrow morning to ensure you are choosing growth? Because tomorrow morning, that alarm is going to go off.
It always does.
And the primitive brain is going to beg you for comfort. Which path will you choose?
Choose wisely.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.